Hello one and all, and welcome to Behind the Glass, your weekly automotive podcast hosted by two rather uninformed enthusiasts.
No.
I'm Sam from the YouTube channel Seen Through Glass.
I'm Tony from Gravelwood Car Sales.
And you can watch us each week. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Howdy, Tony.
How
are you?
You should be American, really, the amount of bloody time you go over there.
I love that place. Honestly, I really, really love that place.
Yeah, you always say you like America.
How do you feel about the Boxster?
Well, I just find it fascinating that you've gone halfway around the world to buy a car so I don't see it. I mean, because you know how bad it is. You know what I'm going to say. When you've gone to that lengths now
to hide it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't go to Australia.
The thing is as well is that I did tell you what car I'd settled on. I never showed you a picture, did I?
No.
Yeah.
Because I'd have just finished you off.
Yeah, I think deep down I knew what you would have said.
Yeah. It's so weird as well because you never really showed me a picture of the 360 either, but when you bought the CS, you did.
Yes.
Because you knew I'd approve, even though it's old.
Yeah.
It's just iconic and cool.
I think I can't be asked having to explain things to you. Do you know what I mean? And especially with this car, with the chrome wheels.
I can't, mate.
The fried egg headlights. I think you probably also would have just disregarded it. You'd be like, all right.
I literally would have said, cool, mate.
And that would have been so disappointing. So I think I said, I'm not even going to bother. But yes, I have now revealed my 2002 Boxster S, which I have actually already done this incredible cross-America road trip in, and then going to be taking up to Monterey Car Week. I've flown back here to the UK to help Vicky, my wife, and with our daughter essentially, help manage that. So the trip is broken up in two, but online it is living as one. But yeah, I'm back here so we can podcast, and as I say, I can help be a daddy,
live your life,
live my life exactly. But we can get into it a little bit. So. How did I settle on Boxster S? We did discuss a little bit. I did tell you a bit about my thinking, what I was planning for the trip.
Was what you could afford, right?
Well, yeah, that was the budget. The budget was a big part of it. So just in case you haven't seen the main channel content, a full recap. At the start of the year, I decided I wanted to take my GT3 on a big American adventure. Mm-hmm. Firstly, I wanted to do a road trip across America, or at least through parts of America.
Yep.
I'd last done that in 2019 during Drive the World. I really enjoyed it. I just love the US.
Yep.
Wanted to have that adventure and then end up at Car Week, which again I hadn't attended since 2019, which I was last there in my Carrera T. Thought how cool to go back with the GT3. But long story short, I got a quote back from the shipping company. It was going to be £16,000 to ship my car there and back. And because when you put it on a boat, you lose it for ages because it's got to go to the shipyard like 4 weeks before the boat is scheduled. Then sometimes you miss the first boat you want, or a boat gets delayed. So it just...
If the boat sinks, you lose it forever.
That's true.
I mean, that's happened before.
Could have done with the insurance payout, got to be honest.
You could have, manual green and no cage.
Bash your seats.
You bash your seats.
Oh, what a disaster. So I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to happen. And then a few weeks later, I was chatting with the team at Swissquote, who I invested some money with in the last year. They're all car people. We were sitting around the table having a coffee, and I told them about this because I was just riffing on my dilemmas of life. And one of them
you do to everyone, by the way. He literally reels it off to basically everyone he meets.
It's woe be me, isn't it? Everyone
so
go, like, what's going on with you? I'm like, oh, mate, where do I start?
Yeah.
They're probably just desperate to get out of the conversation.
They are, yeah.
And one of them said, couldn't you just fly to America, buy a car, do the road trip, and then sell it and lose less money? That was kind of the initial concept. I saw a few comments from people saying, well, if you are trying not to lose 16 grand or lose less than 16 grand, why not go buy a new turbo or a new GT3 or a new... But I was like, firstly, hold on a second. I mean, in America, they're like $250,000. Like, how much money do you think I have? Yeah. It's ridiculous.
I mean, you have got a few quid, but...
A few quid, not that many quid.
But there's also no point, mate.
No, there's no fun in that.
No. Well, there is. But there's just no point.
At that point, I might as well have shipped my own car. Why am I going to fly to America and buy a $200,000 GT3 when I've got one sitting here at home?
And hold on a minute as well, by the way. If we're going on depreciation, if America's like this country in terms of depreciation, You'd lose 16,000 quid anyway, easily.
1,000,000%. That was going to be my other point, is if I bought anything nearly new and put 3,500 miles on the clock.
Easily,
because just driving it off the forecourt, I'm probably going to lose that in a margin.
Would the dealer margin on a Turbo S, I mean, depending what dealer, but would be 15 or 20 grand.
Exactly.
So if that's the same in America, it's probably more in America because they're greedy bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
they are, of course, and you know they put huge prices over sticker. It did that, that wasn't. I was like, that's just not the trip I want to do. I want to have a bit of an adventure, have a bit of fun, but also I wanted to use this product that Swissquote offer, this Lombard loan, which is a percentage of your investment portfolio. And full disclosure, I definitely didn't invest like £500,000 because that's what, like, you know, that's not. I don't have that money to
You've
invest.
You've probably drawn all the money out you could.
Literally, I was like maximum borrowing. I was like, what is the maximum I can borrow? That's what I'm going to be taking. So yeah, that's why my budget was $20,000, or roughly. I could have gone up to like $25,000.
What's that? 16 or 17 grand?
Yeah, that was the cost of the shipping.
Okay.
So that was kind of how we justified it. So looked at a few different things. Started off with a Mercedes S63 AMG sedan.
Okay.
That's like a 2011 car, 2012 car. Really cool, but they were all like 80 or 90,000 miles. Yeah. Sketchy service history. I just don't know much about those cars.
Yeah.
I was just a bit like, it's kind of right for the trip because it's 3,500 miles. A lot of it's on the highway, like big long days, kind of would have been comfy-ish. But anyway, I just couldn't find a nice spec.
Fair.
Steered away. We looked at BMW Z3Ms, or in America they're called M Roadsters.
Mm-hmm. That would be pretty cool.
Dude, really cool cars.
Yeah.
But it's one of those cars that suffered from American whatever.
Ism.
Thank you.
Right.
Had the smaller engine, so it didn't have a beefy engine.
Right.
They got a diluted engine. So then you're on a less powerful variant, not ideal. And it's quite a small car to do a big trip like that in.
Yeah.
Small in the cabin for me as a lanky bastard.
Yeah, yeah. And
then not a lot of boot space. And I don't know, like I found some amazing specs. They're quite expensive in the US. Mm-hmm. They were pushing up close towards the $30,000 mark for the really nice ones. Yeah, you could find some cheaper ones, but the really nice ones. Mm. I wanted to get a clamshell. Was the one that I really wanted. So a clown shoe, you know, the actual coupes,
the Brent van.
Coupes. Yeah. What else do we look at? We found a couple of 996 cabriolets, really nice cars, but just dogs at the same time.
Yeah.
I think we looked at a few other things. I did look at quite a lot of American stuff. Remember when we went to LA?
Yeah.
I looked at a couple of trucks. A 2000 F-150 Lightning, which was the truck that Paul Walker's character drove in the first Fast and Furious.
Yeah, yeah.
That was super cool.
Yeah. Can you get one of them? I suppose you can, because America cars are the only thing that is really actually that cheap.
Well, the thing is, but weirdly not.
Right.
Because I think that's the cliche dream, right? Is like go and do that road trip in an American muscle car. It's not really been my dream to do that, but I at least thought I should have a look. But, you know, modern day Mustangs and Camaros and stuff, too expensive. And then the old classics, of course, you can get some real ratty stuff for that little, but actually they hold their value.
Fair.
So there weren't too many options and trucks and things like that. Just a bit impractical. Anyway, so long story short, settled on Boxster, and we found this beautiful 2002 986 black with the chrome wheels, stone grey interior, fried egg headlights. But the big positive was IMS had been done, RMS had been done, clutch had been done, full service. It had been looked after by the same workshop that was trusted by a friend of mine for 15 years.
Right.
So I thought, like, this is as good as a Boxster's going to get.
Loads of miles?
45,000.
Right.
I think that's pretty decent.
It's not kilometres or miles?
Miles. So that's an average of just over 2,000 miles a year.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's pretty good for a Boxster. So all the signs were kind of there, and I was like, this is good. This is as good as we're going to get for a Boxster sub $20,000. Yeah. Because it's $16,000 all in. So yes.
Where did you find it? Online.
A friend of mine who works at Ryan Friedman Motor Cars, which is on the East Coast, he found it. Oh. It was a guy he knew, ran a workshop, posted it on his story. So it never actually got listed for sale. He said, good. We're going to be selling this. And he just moved on it straight away. So he found it. We got it shipped over to the Ryan Friedman workshop. They put it through, got it all detailed. Avant-Garde Studios, I think, did like an outrageous new car detail on it. Put some fresh tyres on it from Continental. Gave it a once over, made sure oils and everything like that were good. Insured, registered. That was complicated.
Oh, was that all in the 16,000?
No, that's all plus.
And insurance, plus.
Yeah, so insurance and registration. So America do it so differently to us. So
insure the person, not the car.
no,
right?
insure the car. By VIN.
Insure the car by VIN. So you can do what you like with plates and stuff.
Yes,
right.
Because insurance. Well, this is where it's confusing. Insurance is by state, but it covers you nationwide.
Yeah.
Registration is by state, and then you have also title. So license, registration, and title. 3 different things.
Right.
But they're all done on a state level.
Yeah.
And each state does things slightly differently and has slightly different costs.
Yeah.
So
but we have similar though, mate. We have
you don't register your car in Lincolnshire.
no, but someone does. No, we as a used car you don't do that, but as a new car they're registered all over the country, aren't they?
No, but the rules of registration are not different per
No.
borough, county.
Yeah.
They're very different per state.
Yeah,
There's a
okay.
different tax. So you have new car registration tax or
Yep.
sales tax.
Yeah.
So even used car sales tax, and that differs per state.
Yeah.
In California, you have smog tests you have to go and do. You have to get a certificate for
Yeah.
smog. In New York, there's other tests you have to do. So like it's totally different.
Well, you know what I saw the other day to try and avoid tax, by the way, was that people are buying houses now
Right.
in lower tax states, lifting them up on lorries and taking them to Florida and plonking them on.
No.
Yeah, to save themselves fortunes. That's what they're doing now.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's obviously a thing.
Well, I mean, yes, I think it is a thing. And when it gets to cars, so my final solution was I actually registered the car in Montana. No sales tax there. So officially I'm a tax dodger, but as a non-dom, that was my only option.
Right.
I actually couldn't register the car anywhere else.
And they're all right with you registering it there, even though the car's not from there or you're not from there or...
So I have an LLC in Montana.
Right.
I have an LLC in Montana.
Well, you're going to move there, aren't you?
I'm making moves. And the car is registered to the LLC. And then...
It's all very confusing, this is. For a pile of shit Boxster. Flip it now. You've gone to some lengths this time,
Yeah.
I've got to tell you.
And then the garage address, the kept address,
Yeah.
is the absolutely glorious Westside Collector Car Storage
Nice.
in California,
Nice.
which is under the remit of lovely Matt Farah.
Oh.
So it's a bit convoluted. There are a few companies out there that help you do this. So if you're thinking about doing something similar to this, the hardest part is insurance and registration. There are a few companies in Montana that can help you with this,
Wow.
that essentially do this process of creating an LLC, setting that all up for you, registering the car to the LLC, title, all
Did
that
you
stuff.
use
So
a company or you done it yourself?
I used a company.
Fair.
So it is all legitimate.
Can we talk about cost? Is there a... can you-
$1,000.
right. All in.
All in, $1,000 all
Right.
in to do the whole process.
Okay.
And it was unbelievable, super quick,
Okay.
super easy, guided the whole way, updates constantly. I think it's all super legitimate, but I do think it's a loophole or a grey area that may get shut down if this suddenly becomes like this. The thing is, it's never going to be something that people are doing. It's not like thousands of people are going to start flying to America and registering cars. Like,
Well,
but,
hold on a minute, mate. You've just told the general public.
yeah, but who else is like? You think everyone listening to the podcast is now going to fly to America, buy a car, register it, do a road trip, and then it's like,
Yep.
no. But the reason it's a grey area is that within America, people are choosing to do this to avoid tax in their state.
Right.
And that's where it's sketchy.
Okay.
So if you're a Californian resident driving around a car on a Montana plate, police do like to stop you and do like to really go through the paperwork.
Do they?
Now, obviously, that's not such a big issue when I'm driving around in a $16,000 Boxster, but I have heard of and know of people that might be driving
Big cars.
big cars, event doors, DBSs, things like that, that will get stopped and will get asked
Okay.
repeatedly because it's a known thing
Right.
in states with high sales tax and car tax that people will then look to do what I just did, but as a US resident. Now, that's where you could argue, okay, fine, you are kind of avoiding tax. I don't knock anyone for trying to avoid tax. Like, all of us want to pay as little tax as possible.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you've got to play your part. I don't think you can avoid tax entirely. I'm not here for tax dodgers.
No.
But tax
avoidance.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I had no other option because, as I say, I don't live in America. This was my only option.
Fair.
And then insurance. Was it insured in Montana or California in the end? I can't remember, but that's through Progressive. They're like a legitimate main huge insurer. It's like any UK massive insurer. So that's all legitimate as well. They insure under a foreign license.
Yeah, fair. What's wrong with your mic?
I don't know. My mic's on the move.
Why does it keep doing that?
My mic's moving around. I think it's the heat. So yeah, super complicated, but we got there in the end. And actually, now I'm like, do I even want to sell the car?
Oh. Well, you know what's coming after, everyone. I'm bringing it to the UK. That's coming.
Genuinely, I started thinking about
And then
that.
you're going to pay 16 grand to get it back in complete. Yeah. Should have said the pumping that is coming, by the way.
Somebody made that comment on the YouTube video.
It's me.
I do see that happening. It was you. Yeah. Because I've completed the cross country element. Mm-hmm. So 3,500 miles, 7 days. I won't go into too many details because that's coming in 2 main channel videos. I'll split it up into 2 sections. But fundamentally, what a car.
Fair.
What a car. I had 35 degrees plus weather the whole way.
You had the roof down?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Until I got to...
You have a hat on, obviously.
Mate, lots of sun cream and lots of hats.
Yep.
I got to Utah/Arizona. So this is like Grand Canyon-y type territory. So we're talking southwest-ish of America.
Nice twisty roads.
Oh, mate, some of the roads are unbelievable.
Like Angeles Crest?
A million times better.
Right.
A million times better.
Why didn't we go there then?
Because it's 16 hours from California.
All right, but next time we go, we'll make a couple of days.
Colorado, I think, is definitely one of the places that you would love to go and we should go. For me, more so like Utah and Arizona, because the scenery and the landscape is unlike anywhere else in the world. The roads reminded me a bit of Spain.
Nice.
In the non-twisty sections, the long open sections.
Yeah.
So it's not particularly technical.
Yeah.
Colorado,
nice roads,
Colorado's parts of it technical, but it's just that scale, nice, wide, open, fairly smooth roads, and not a soul.
Yeah.
I did one road for about 6 hours. I saw 3 cars.
Wow. And how far is Colorado from Texas?
I think quite far. Colorado to Texas, I think. Because
I'd like to go to Texas.
Why?
I just like the sound of the name.
I think you would be incredibly disappointed.
Well,
this is not to insult Texan.
Yeah, but like I really wanted to go to Australia, and although I liked it, I was slightly disappointed. But let me go there and see. You know,
what do you think Texas is going to be like?
Horses and lots of people eating meat.
It's 17 hours and 45 minutes from.
No, you can't just drop in there, can you?
The thing is, Texas is unbelievably flat and largely unattractive.
Right.
Austin, I adore as a city, which is where COTA is, the US Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Where's that?
Austin, which is a little bit south.
Yeah.
Dallas, sorry, going to say it, I thought a bit of a dump.
Shithole.
Bit of a dump.
Right.
A lot of Texas, it's huge Texas. So the sort of Matthew McConaughey kind of like on a ranch, cowboys.
Yeah.
That exists, but I think it's harder to find than you would expect.
Okay.
And it is just vast and flat and hot and a bit like...
Okay.
There's obviously beautiful parts because it's a huge state.
Yeah.
But like Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Washington, Oregon, like all of these places are like...
Oh, that's the other side then.
That's all west.
Oh, right.
That's all just genuinely unbelievable.
And then
in terms
down
of,
you've got New York, and then further down you've got Miami and Florida, right?
that's the East Coast.
That's the East Coast, right?
That's
I'm
the
just
East
trying to get
Coast.
bearings,
Yeah.
that's all.
So in my head, my whole thing was get west as quickly as possible.
Right.
Because I've done this trip this is my 3rd time doing Cross America road trip. And I was like, I remember the East was a bit boring. Let's just get west. But actually, that first part, so like between New York and Chicago, that strip all the way down, that would include Atlanta. It would include my favorite road, Taylor's Dragon.
Is it there that way?
All the way down there.
Okay.
And that
All the way down there.
Yeah, Florida, like that whole strip, good.
Mate, we could do a tour there.
I would love to do a tour there.
Yeah.
So my friend Amma,
We get enough Americans to
I think I would hope so. We have a huge American audience,
Yeah.
but it's more like where and the planning of. We'd need to partner up with someone, I think,
All right.
to do because it's so and this is the whole thing, right? So I was like, get away, but that whole first strip is actually amazing.
Okay.
Vermont, Massachusetts, like all up there is beautiful. Connecticut, so like you could do a lot on the east. It's between, I think, Chicago and Denver. I would say that section is pretty tough going for road trips.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to have people from Idaho being like, no, you forgot about us. But that, for me, that section is not particularly dynamic.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's just a lot of mileage. It feels a bit like driving through the middle of France.
Right.
So, you've got to get west. But yeah, unforgettable journey. I would say of the two main channel videos coming, they're very different. Part 1 and part 2 could not be more different.
Okay.
Part 1 is definitely like setting the scene, getting the miles under the belt. Part 2 is like ultimate US road trip.
Okay. And over the next couple of Sundays?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next 2 Sundays will be that, and then we'll be straight into Monterey Car Week. So I've left the car at Matt Farrow's place at Westside Collector Car Storage, which I have to say is super impressive. I dropped the car off. They were like cleaning one of those new EV Hummers.
What are they?
They had a 918, a 959. I think Matt's Bentley was knocking around. A beautiful, I don't even know what orange new 992 GT3 RS. Like, it's just a cool place.
Yeah.
So they're being amazing, looking after the car, put it in storage until I go back in literally 9 days' time. And that'll be for Car Week. And then supposedly...
When you're gone for another week and then you're back?
Yeah,
Right.
supposedly at the end of Car Week, I will then drop it probably back off with Matt, and we'll stick it on, bring a trailer or cars and bids.
Yeah,
That's the plan.
Yeah.
But yes,
You're probably going to keep it in.
I might keep it. Well, I've already been invited on a trip in October over towards the East Coast. I was like, that'd be kind of cool. Then I could fly back, and it could just be my US car. And I was like, that's the most extravagant thing I've ever heard in my life.
You could just buy cars you could buy one for Europe. You could buy one for... Yeah, I mean, you might as well, mate.
So rich.
Yeah.
But honestly, yeah, a truly special moment. And it did get me thinking, doing a driving tour in the US would be cool.
Yeah.
It would be cool. It's just a very different vibe. And actually, I don't know what car...
We'd have to rent a couple.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'll take the Boxster. I don't know what car would be right for that kind of trip. If it was a no-budget question, I don't know what I would take. Because the roads are very... As you found them in Angeles Crest, which, again, is not a particularly technical road. Like, it's a weird road, that road. Let's talk about that for a second.
What?
So, arriving into California...
Yeah.
I got there on a Friday, which is this big event called Good Vibes, which is like a meet at the top of Angeles Crest, where we went up to when we were filming. And on my way up there, I was giving it large in the Boxster, and I went around this corner and I saw...
Oh, you went up Angeles Crest in the Boxster?
I went up. And I saw 3 Series pancaked on the side of the road, like had clearly had...
The big crash.
Huge crash. It was upside down and flat.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, God. And as I went past it, I kind of noticed at the side of my eye that the blinkers were still on. I thought, well, if they're still going, that's got to be kind of fresh-ish. Like, that's not been there for a few days. The battery would have died. So I looked over my shoulder and I saw somebody sitting on the car. I thought, oh, my God. So I continued up, found the first place to turn around, went back down. And as I was coming down, somebody else was in front of me, and they'd stopped, and somebody had run and got in the car and they'd driven off. I thought, this is all a bit weird. And no, I had a look at the crash, mate. This car was...
Totaled.
Well, 3 Series Cabriolet. It must have been an E46 shape, I think. And I was like, this is just all a bit grim. So I drove back up to the top of the hill for Good Vibes. And on the way back down, the cops were there and they were cleaning it up. And I said to some of the guys, when did the crash happen? He said, this morning. So I was like, oh my God. So that was probably...
Not
the driver or the passenger, but how that person had survived, I do not know. Like it was like such a terrifying looking accident. But apparently it happens all the time. I spoke to a few people in and around that event, and they just said that road, because do you remember there's a lot of off-camber corners, lots of corners that were tightening up halfway through. And if you don't really know what you're doing, or you're inexperienced, or you're in an overpowered car, or a car too fast, it is a big crash. And apparently these crashes happen all the time. And that morning on the way back down, a GTR went off the side, saved by a guardrail apparently, but literally just went ploughing off the side.
Well, I mean, we were talking about crashes. I saw 2 aeroplane crashes at Nürburgring this weekend.
Really?
Like aeroplane ones, mate. Like one was a new shape RS3, and so weirdly, I was talking to him in the car park an hour before, saying to him, "Put a bloody crash helmet on because you're going. It's a new shape RS3. It's fast."
Wow.
Half hour later, I come round to the Bellavesses, which is after the jump. For people that know, it's an S section at the end. Basically, it's fast. I don't know exactly what happened, but rolled the car with 4 people in it. Car completely totaled. Luckily, they were all out. I mean, it's unbelievable how these modern cars now, but you know, they still half stay in one piece, but they were out the other side of the barrier. They went to hospital, obviously. I think they were hurt, but not to the point. And there was one when we left that we saw on social media after. It was an M4 just before YouTube corner, like a 1920 plate one that was unrecognisable. It had flipped, hit a post, spun round and ended up on the barrier.
Oh,
mate, and it was it's unrecognisable, like an aeroplane crash.
Oh,
yeah.
I even saw Misha saying that this weekend was ridiculous.
Worst. It was like literally the worst. I've probably done. It was the worst weekend I can probably remember, because Friday and Saturday the weather was terrible, and then Sunday, like it was like everyone just decided to come because the weather was nice, and it was just like 45 minutes to get off, 45 minutes to get back on again. The track was shut for probably 6 hours of the day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just an chaos, mate, chaos. So,
do you not just think at that point? Do you not just go, "I was going to go take my car on the road somewhere"?
But do you know what? I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about our conversation a little bit last week about, you know, it's dangerous and stuff. But like you just illustrated, it's dangerous driving on Alpine Road, mate, as well.
For sure.
You know, like I was thinking back to all the road trips I've done over the years, and, you know, it's so easy for us to go round an Alpine Road, round a blind bend fairly quickly, and there'd be a broken caravan or
I've said it to you a million times over.
A bit of oil, and you go off. So from that point, at least the Nürburgring or racetracks, it's more controlled, you know, and you do get some.
Well, the biggest thing is you've got no one coming the other way. You're all at least heading in the same direction. So even if your closing speeds are very fast, you're at least all heading in the same direction. Where one of the scary things I heard about Angeli's Crest is a guy coming down the hill, and an F-150 pickup truck had decided to cross the road into a layover on the other side on a blind turn, and just boom.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing on a public road that you always have to take into consideration, even if you're driving briskly, is that around a corner, you genuinely never have any idea what could be around that corner. Even if you think you're on a quiet road, you just don't know. Where at least if you're on Nürburgring or a racetrack, at least you're going in the same direction. And if it's a racetrack, if there's an error, there should at least then be some caution flags that will give you a bit of a heads up. But yeah, it's no fun. But do you know if the second crash, if they were okay, or you didn't find out?
I wasn't there, mate. I'd already left. It happened like 4 p.m. or something, so I'd left to drive home. We just saw it afterwards.
A wasted weekend, or you're fine?
Yeah, wasted as in I'd done. I didn't do one lap this weekend where I got to move on.
Yeah,
there was loads of yellow flags. There was a point. My friend in the car, because just me and my friend went. Oh, we took his supercharged MX-5, which was quite funny. So we done the trip in that, and so we done the drive, and then he went round. I didn't go round with him, but that was largely okay.
Okay, amazing.
I mean, it was so uncomfortable to like halfway there I thought, oh, my back's really hurting.
What am I doing? Yeah,
what am I doing?
yeah.
Yeah. But largely all right. It done the job and
Sure.
whatnot. So that was quite fun. But we don't know mate, they would have been seriously hurt because there was no cage or nothing in the car.
Terrifying. Yeah.
And when you look back at I didn't, but Sam, my friend who we went with, he looked back on the photos and the previous laps that we could see of the BMW. They didn't have crash helmets on. Yeah. I mean, put a helmet
big trouble.
on.
Yeah, put a freaking helmet on us. It's the thing that blows my mind in America. So many states you haven't got to wear a helmet on a motorbike. There's so many guys just on these huge Harleys with no helmets on.
Well, you're dead, mate.
But that's America's whole like freedom thing.
Yeah.
I don't get like at that point. Okay, fine, you don't have to wear a helmet, but mate, wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
It's so weird that I don't. No, I don't have to.
Yeah. Well, there's a theory. Some people have different, especially at the Nürburgring, where they say if you have a crash in a modern car and you haven't got a helmet on, it saves you from getting whiplash because obviously you've got the weight of the helmet.
Yeah, push it forward. Yeah.
But fair enough. But if you have a monumental crash because some of the fast cars are going really fast, like you either get whiplash or you hit your head.
Yeah,
because you are going to hit your head
yeah.
somewhere at some point. So I'd rather have whiplash. Thanks.
Yeah, probably in the grand scheme of things. I caught up with our friend Spike.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Was he all right?
Yeah, very well.
Just Spike?
Spike and then Johnny, who you didn't meet.
Didn't meet Johnny, no.
Zuckerman. Zuckerman was on a trip in Germany, apparently. So I was a fill-in. I was a last-minute fill-in.
Was you?
Which was very nice of them. But yeah, because I had messaged Johnny to ask him some advice about good vibes. And he went, oh, well, actually, we need somebody for tonight. Yeah, could you come along? I was like, oh, cool, yeah, I'll be there. But I saw their 9923 RS.
Nice.
Actually so nice.
Fair.
Doesn't come across in the pictures well enough because the blue they've gone with is a really aggressive blue, but it's white everywhere else. Painted bonnet. It's super nice, really, really cool. And Spike was saying he adores it.
Yeah.
And
does he still like the 4RS?
They got rid of it.
Yeah.
And they got the 3, and he's just like 3RS is just night and day. Another one. Absolutely loves it. He's only done 400 miles in it, but just said it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I finally lined up drive for me in that car.
Wow.
So in September, I got that car for a few days. So
Good.
I actually cannot wait. If I can convince Porsche to let you have a go as well, we'll go and have some fun in it.
Yeah.
I'll ask the question.
Yeah, very good.
But a few cool cars I saw knocking around. The thing that really amazed me in America is that literally every fourth car seemed to be a bloody C8 Corvette. Remember we took that Corvette out when we went a couple of years ago?
Mate, I see loads of them now,
They're
full stop.
everywhere, mate.
Yeah.
They have proved very popular.
Yeah.
I think pricing has helped.
Yeah, I mean, dynamically, they're not that bad. The gearbox was terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, gearbox was sort of sloppy and soft, but it was a sort of. We thought of it as a Cayman rival, didn't we? A GT4 rival, or a sort of. Don't remember because we drove the box standard car. We didn't drive the Larry one.
Yeah, you're probably right. It was, yeah.
Or a 911 Carrera S rival.
Yeah, but or the little R8 maybe. The rear wheel drive one.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if it felt as exciting as that. As sort of,
I think it probably handled better.
The soft, comfy Corvette was soft and comfy, but it was good. But you had to sort of pick it up by the scruff of its neck and really crack on. But they've since released the Z06, which I saw a few of knocking around. Everyone says sounds like a 458. But then just whilst I was in America, this new crazy one came out. Let me just get rid of this. This ZR1.
Right.
Which actually...
Is that a bit of me?
No.
Oh. No.
1,000 horsepower, mate.
Right.
So it's a twin turbo, 5.5 litre V8.
Yeah.
Making 1,064 horsepower to the rear wheels.
Right. So why is that not a bit of me then?
Well...
It's an SF90, no? With rear wheel drive.
I think that sounds like...
Def?
Yeah. I mean, it could be amazing.
Yeah.
I just think 1,000 horsepower.
It's way too much.
From a twin anyway, the most impressive thing is that Johnny was saying he thinks that's going to be $150,000. At which point...
That sounds cheap.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
If that's true, and he's got that right, unbelievable.
Well, if you're comparing that to that Mustang GTD thing that's 300,000 odd.
100%. That's a good point. But also just in general, in terms of power and dynamics, there's nothing else that really competes against it because, yes, you're right, SF90 wise, but it's not. It's rear wheel drive firstly.
Yeah.
Differently, it's not hybrid, you know.
So
So
they won't be as fast in this F90, I'll be amazed.
no, of course. But do you know what I mean? Like on paper, you have to look at some of the stats to see, like
Yeah.
stats wise, where does it sit?
Yeah.
And there's elements that you would put there, elements you put against 296, but like again, it's not hybrid. So at the moment, there is a hybrid version coming apparently, but this is at the moment twin turbo V8, so it's combustion engines.
Is it like track focused or is it just?
Yes, but still a road car.
Right.
I mean, it is a road car, but track focused for sure.
Not track focused like a GT car or?
I don't think so. Let's have a little look. I get confused. I did try and ask Johnny to understand a little bit more about the Chevy sort of lineup because we don't really get them over or haven't got them over here before. I was trying to understand. Here we go. Oh no, at Germany's famous Nürburgring racetrack.
Yeah, because there's a few of them knocking around there.
Yeah, all 4 Corvette
Not
test
them,
drivers eclipsed 200 miles an hour on their first laps, and the first don't stop there. The ZR1 is the first turbocharged vet and the first production model to produce over 1,000 horsepower. But I mean, it's got a big old wing on it, so it's not messing around, is it? I mean,
No.
I think it's definitely going to be set up to slay supercars. This is an article on Car and Driver. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is track focused.
Fair.
Yeah, here we go. ZR1 has the power and the track hardware to engage wheel-to-wheel combat with the world's best supercars.
Okay.
I think it looks good. I think it looks like the SF90XX.
Yeah. It does look a bit like it. Yeah, you're right.
And they've had a sort of history of doing that, haven't they, with Corvettes kind of looking similar-ish to Ferraris of their era. I remember, wasn't it the 575 and one of those Corvettes?
That looks like, to me, the American 765 LT or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. Well done. Yeah, it's somewhere in that realm.
Yeah. But with just a bit more power.
I'm intrigued by it. I mean, I think it sounds terrifying, but kind of amazing.
I mean, you don't need all that power, mate. I mean, what are you going to do with all that power?
I mean, it's going to be
wasting half of it.
a lot of crashes
%.
at Cars and Coffees, isn't it?
Yeah. Watch this.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of
That's a
watch
big
this.
one. The only thing with the American roads, you've got a few lanes to sort it out.
Yeah. It's like, whoa. Crossing 6 lanes in one go.
literally.
Yeah, I think fair play, though. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Well, now I love America so much.
Right.
There was some interesting cars. It's so different. Driving through America, driving one of those. Here we get so used to seeing M3s, RS3s,
German
C63s.
Yeah,
German
yeah.
stuff. Just don't see any of it over there. You really it's so much Japanese stuff
Yeah.
and then American trucks.
Yeah.
And nothing particularly exciting.
Yeah. But we saw that in Australia as well, though, didn't we, mate?
Yeah.
Loads of trucks and
We're just
Japanese
spoiled here. We're just spoiled
Yeah.
with the amount of sort of like Larry bits knocking
Yeah.
around. But I think the whole way across, I saw two Hurricanes. I saw a 720S Spider maybe, or could have been a 7. I think it was a 720S Spider, and a 599 randomly.
Yeah.
Those were the 4 supercars that I saw the whole trip, all in totally random places.
Yeah.
No, I think I saw the McLaren on the outskirts of Denver. The other 3 in completely random, like in
But
the
when we
middle of
went to LA, mate, there was bloody millions of them.
of course.
Yeah.
But I think that's the whole point. Sometimes we get jaded, right? Because we spend our lives around these cars. You forget there's huge parts of the world that never even see
Yeah.
Taycans. You know, we go, there's Taycans everywhere.
Yeah.
Some people haven't even seen a Taycan.
Yeah.
But I think in Europe, if I was to do that trip, which we've done so many times from here to the south of France,
Yeah.
you do just see spicier stuff
You do, yeah.
in general.
Especially as you do get towards the south.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
just driving through France, there's just always bits knocking around.
Yeah.
But I'm intrigued because I think at Car Week there'll be quite a few bits that we're going to talk about. So just a reminder, we are going on a little bit of a break. So next week we'll be doing a pre-recorded chat with another guest. Thank you all for the feedback you gave us on the James episode. That seemed to go down very well, which was great.
Yeah.
We loved having him on. So there's another episode next week, guest episode, because obviously I'll be back in America. Then there's Car Week, and then we restart at the start of September. I think we'll have quite a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I've had quite a few emails about cars being unveiled.
Fair.
There's going to be,
Okay.
quite a nice amount to
Nice
chat.
selection.
Nice selection.
Yeah.
And some of the American stuff that filtering through. I had a look around one of those Rivians, which I thought was super cool. There's just interesting stuff, and it's just different. It's interesting to see that different world of it, the different side of it, EV side of it. That was the biggest thing, is that I literally didn't see one EV until I hit California.
Well, did you hear? Did you see the article about the guy that owns Rimac saying that he's seen the drop off in Rimacs, and obviously the swing is still, the demand is still ICE combustion engines, which is why they're still keeping Bugatti as an ICE maker.
I adore Mate Rimac. I think he's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's he must have been referring to the supercar market.
That's exactly,
Fine.
That's what he said, like that there's still the demand for ICE engines in that $2 million bracket it's still petrol and not EV.
I mean, also, I know Rimac were like the first and the best and whatever, but I don't think a lot of people with £2 million were rushing out to buy Rimacs.
No.
So it's a bit of a punch. Like it's a bit like we saw that people were buying less Rimacs than they had done before. Were they ever buying Rimacs? But also, I think he is right. I think at the end of the day, we've seen 2,000 horsepower Lotus Evija, 2,000 horsepower Pininfarina Battista, 2,000. People just don't want them.
No.
If you're spending that kind of money, you want a Gordon Murray T50, you want a Pagani Huayra manual. There's the stuff that people want.
Yeah.
They're just not bothered with EVs at that kind of price point. But I do. I don't know if it's true at a lower price point. I think the point that a few people have made, which is right, is that the early adopters, those that were going to buy EVs, have done so.
Yeah.
Some have not had good experiences and have now made their way back into hybrids or combustion engine vehicles. But there is still a huge proportion of the population who are yet to try an EV and are slowly being more and more enticed as products become...
Them people are buying hybrids currently.
Yeah, but I think they're being more and more enticed as the products become a little bit more affordable, a little bit more accessible. The focus is less on 150, 200,000 pound super saloons or whatever, and we're getting more of these, some semi-Chinese brands, but Renault 5s, Abarth 500Es, these kind of things. I think people are starting to go, okay, that could make sense.
I haven't seen that swing yet, by the way.
No, but of course,
not been that
don't
swing.
forget a lot of stuff, because it's going to be new car sales, isn't it? Very few people are buying the used EVs.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also, because I think a lot of people are still leasing, how many of those used EVs are going to be coming your way?
Yeah. No, but even when I speak to the new dealers, as in new EV sales have definitely dropped off, for sure.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah, I know, but it's so hard, because then obviously on paper they're not, because people are still registering them, right? This is where it gets a bit hard, because we've spoken about this before, or I see a lot of EV evangelists or people who are part of this conversation saying, everyone keeps saying EV sales are slowing down, EV sales are dropping off, but here are the stats. Actually, if you look at quarter by quarter, they're not. They're still as strong as ever. But that doesn't actually mean private cars on the road, does it?
No. So when I speak to the dealers, the people that are buying EVs currently are business owners, and then the registrations obviously come from the manufacturers, because they have to hit a certain quota to keep their CO2 thing. So that doesn't mean sales. It means they're registering and then doing loads and loads of money off. Some of them are going to rent companies, some of them are going to lease companies. So that's how it's all made up, essentially.
Yeah, because I think that's what blurs the line, is that...
Yeah, but private punters going in and buying cars. By the way, the figures that have made up of private punters going in is not 100% of the figures, because obviously you've got lease, rental, then you've got manufacturer cars. So it's probably only 70% that have made up of actually private punters going in and buying cars.
Okay.
So 30% is probably
some form of business.
Some form of lease business, manufacturer.
Yeah.
So it's all a little bit clouded anyway.
Yeah, I say it's hard to read, and I was trying to pick, because Johnny's a big EV guy.
Yeah.
And I was picking his brains on the whole scene out there, and obviously California's leading the way for the US.
Yeah.
And he viewed things a bit differently to how we do for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, those figures blur the lines.
Yeah.
Anyway, mate, what are you going to be doing in our little summer break? We're just like the F1 season. Well, summer shut down. We're going to talk about that in a second, by the way. But what are your plans? Where are you going? Are you doing any driving? Are you doing any? Are you just working?
No driving. Going away with my girlfriend for a few days. Molly's gone to her nan's.
Oh, lovely.
So and she's gone with her mum to her nan's. Yeah, so I've got a couple of weeks free essentially. So I'm going to have a few days off, but no, mate, just the normal, really.
Yeah, just slaving away.
Yeah, just keep ticking
I
away.
hope you have some nice weather. Quickly touch on the F1. Did you watch the Spa?
I did. Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I think George was a bit unlucky. I something doesn't add up in the whole thing of. Lewis was fuming about the strategy.
Lewis was fuming.
Yeah.
That adds up. That's obvious. They just didn't tell him.
Yeah. But we always knew they're going to prioritise George over Lewis because Lewis is leaving and whatever. But fair play to Lewis, fair play to George for calling. Although we never really know. Like I was talking to my friend yesterday about it, and like 80% of the messages that go on the radio are not published. So
Well, there was a great moment with. Was it Karoon or someone where they played out a message from Lewis or Ant Davidson maybe? They played out a message from Lewis where he was like,
understood.
He's going that fast. That's insane.
Yeah.
And the commentators were like, well, who's he referring to? George. And then someone went, no, I think he's referring to Piastri. And then they threw down to Sky Control, which I think was Ant Davidson. Said, yeah, you didn't get the whole message. Yeah. It started off by them saying these are Piastri's lap times. You only heard Lewis's response. Yeah. So they chop it. It's entertainment.
Yeah. They just chop it in. The weigh-in thing, I had a long discussion with a friend of mine about, maybe you, because you know more about F1 than I do in terms of that nerdy bit. The car was overweight, right? Underweight, sorry. Underweight by 1.5 kilo. And people were saying about the fuel, and Mercedes left some fuel in or extra fuel in, and I couldn't get my head around it. Like, the car's underweight, fuel or no fuel, right?
No, so I think maybe what they're talking about is, I think it was Karun Chandok had made a tweet saying blah, 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 but then he put fuel in it so he didn't gain a competitive advantage, and Twitter kicked off about it. So maybe that was the discussion point that you heard or picked up on. I think until Mercedes come out and say they're fine, which maybe they never will, we won't entirely know what went wrong here. The sort of common consensus between analysts seems to be that it was a bad judgment call from Mercedes because he did such a long stint on those tyres. The wear obviously had weared down the rubber, the tread on the tyre. Not tread, but you know what I mean, the actual rubber. So and there was no pickup lap at the end because at Spa's so long, you literally cross the line and you turn into the pit lanes, and usually they'll do a lap around the circuit, picking up all the old rubber, discarded rubber that adds weight to the tyres. Because 1.5 kilos really isn't that much.
No.
And so because they changed some setup on the car, because they changed something, they think it might have just been a little tiny miscalculation, and that would have been the difference. Because it's also strange for the two cars not to have both been underweight. You know, if they were genuinely like cheating or they got something really wrong, Lewis would have been underweight as well. So the only discrepancy was the fact that George had gone to such a length on that tyre, even beyond the advised length from Pirelli on the tyre, that it could have worn down weight-wise more than they'd calculated. And then, you know, through plank wear as well and various different things, and not being able to do a pickup lap, that maybe is where the 1.5 kilos was from.
And the other thing that I couldn't get my head around, and I think even Martin Brundle was surprised, that I expected Lewis to rock up and go past George, 15 laps younger tyres. It's not arguable that Lewis is a better racer than George, so he had everything in his favour, but George continued to have the pace, and even in the DRS, like it wasn't really closing the gaps, and so the car being underweight from that perspective, yeah, must have made a difference, because I've heard drivers before say that. I've heard this from a couple of different F1 drivers, that they said, like, if I'm a kilo or 2 kilos underweight, I'll lose, 2 or 3 seconds.
That's overweight.
Overweight.
Yeah.
I'll lose 2 or 3 seconds in the race pace. I just, when you look at the tyre difference between the two cars, if they're being in the same car, how comes Lewis didn't overtake?
I think there's multiple factors in here. I think firstly, you cannot take away from the incredible race that George
Unbelievable.
drove. I think the tyre management, his positioning, his battery usage, everything for those final few laps, he drove the perfect race.
Masterclass.
And absolutely, if you're underweight, you gain a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It is minimal over those 2 or 3 laps at the end, but it's still a competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think, reading between the lines, my analysis was the reason Lewis was so angry is that they didn't tell him, or they didn't make it clear that George would be a battle at the end. I think their whole focus was on Piastri. So Lewis's assumption was, because he was closing in at 7/10 a lap, consistently.
Second sometimes, yeah.
I think his belief and understanding was, I'll get past George, I've got to keep an eye on Piastri. I don't think they ever made it clear to him that you are racing George, that George is eking out, and George feels confident in his tyre. George is managing his pace, because I think that's what was happening.
Yeah,
I think George was really managing the pace and keeping everything together.
And I think he said that as well. I think
knowing Lewis and
interview.
Piastri were coming, he's like, I had to keep some life in the tyres for those last 5 laps. So I think he just planned it. And I think when Lewis got there and was like, cool, I'm going to go past, and then suddenly George stepped on it, I think at that point, Lewis had already taken the best out of his tyres and was worried about it. And I think he was like, hold on a second, what's going on here? I think that's why Lewis was so cross.
Right.
Because I think he felt like Mercedes should have said, so that you are also racing George.
Yeah.
You aren't just racing Oscar, you're racing George. This is on. If you're going to want to win the race, you're going to have to pass him and overtake him. Yeah. George has been saying, and that's why I think Lewis was so cross. But I think George just drove an outstanding race. I think Lewis drove an outstanding race too.
They both did.
I think this is what I love about this season, is the yo-yoing, the unpredictability. Somebody made a very good point saying that in years to come, whether we'll ever find out or not, something happened to that Red Bull behind the scenes that has taken away its competitive advantage. There was something illegal on that car that is being removed, that we're not being told about.
Okay. Yeah, I think F1 is way too... I know we did have that with Ferrari a few years ago, but I think F1 is way too strict for that. I just think the other teams have caught up, mate. And it seems very convenient that Adrian Newey's gone.
No, that's nothing to do with it. There's nothing to do with it. And he's not gone.
No, but the car has got slower, mate, over the last 5 or 6. Or the other teams have just caught up. I mean, let's be fair. McLaren got their strategy right over the weekend. That was the fastest car. That car should have won again.
The problem being with your argument there is you're saying that 3 teams have caught Red Bull in a number of races. Out of nowhere, a car that was so dominant at the start of the year, we thought this was a complete walkover. Max won the first 7 races with his eyes closed, or 6 out of the first 7, or whatever it was, with his eyes closed. We were like, this is just so boring, it's so dominant. And then literally, you can almost draw a hard line under it.
Canada.
They lost their competitive advantage to the point where then Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari, that were already competitive behind Red Bull,
have caught up.
But, to such an extent that either of them can race. It is absolutely not unheard of in Formula One for something to be discovered or something to be in a grey area, and the FIA in Formula One just to say, quietly remove this. Because when that thing happened with Ferrari, that was supposed to be hush-hush. It was leaked out.
Right.
That it was the fuel, whatever. It then ended up getting leaked, and it was never fully proclaimed. But that was supposed to be a very quiet...
It was running more power, wasn't it?
Yeah. Just remove this.
Yeah, I remember that.
Was it the Vettel year when he nearly... There was something in the Vettel year as well where something got taken away from the car. So that is definitely not unheard of.
Right.
I just find it too strange that suddenly... I mean, Max genuinely didn't have the pace to come through at Belgium.
But that's also true. But if he would have started in P1, he probably still would have won the race or been on the podium. But when you get in one of them trains, it's unless you've got a real speed advantage, which we've seen over the last few weeks that Red Bull haven't anymore. It's just hard to get past, Like, but at the front, and you're controlling the race, you control your pace. You're in clean air. You're not threatened as much. So. Maybe it's that Max started at 11th. He still finished 5th, 4th.
Well, but and the championship is still his because of that, because of what he did in the first half. And it reminds me of the Brawn year almost, when they just did so well in those first 6 or 7 races that wrapped up the championship. Because I saw a stat which was, here's the championship based on the last 8 races. Let me see if I can find it. So yeah, for the last 8 races, this is how the championship would look, with Verstappen in P1 141, Piastri at 126, Hamilton 123, Norris 116, and then a bit of a gap back to the Ferraris. I mean, it makes the top 4 look incredibly exciting.
Incredibly close, yeah.
So you never know, but it's definitely spiced up the year for sure.
And how good's Piastri been the last?
Oh yeah,
I mean, he's starting to get a bit consistent now, isn't he?
But I think even on the podcast I've been saying for ages. I think he's been sitting there. He's been super unlucky with a lot of it, but he's actually been qualifying or out qualifying Norris in a lot of places. Unlucky in racing, but I think he's got that confidence now. There, he's got his head down. I've long said I think mate, he's been champion in everything. Forever. So watch this space. Anyway, well, that's us live in a room. That's not for what am I trying to say? I won't see you again for a while. No. But you'll be able to enjoy, say, one more episode from us next week with a lovely guest. And then it'll be our summer break, and we'll be back with you at the start of September for some awesome shows, and including our tour. September tour, which is very exciting to see. If you want to follow Tony in the meantime, he's at Tony Grover with Car Sales on most social media platforms. I'm at Seen Through Glass. And this podcast is at Behind the Glass __ podcast. We will see you next week and then also in September. Okay, bye-bye.
See ya.